you get older and more wiser and experienced in the business, but the reporters get younger and younger.
You're checking out The Live Life, and today we've got photojournalist extraordinaire Jeff Fleming here. What's up, man?
What's going on?
How you doing? So what's it like working in the Miami market as a photojournalist?
It's a lot different on a couple levels. I mean, one from a photog standpoint, at least at the station I'm at, you're a little less creative. Mm-hmm. It's a little more running and gunning in a city like Miami. That's also a lot to do with the station I'm at is more of a gritty running and gunning type station.
Right.
So I can't speak for the others, but yeah, you are running around a lot more. You're doing a lot more, shootings and cars into buildings and whatnot, as opposed to a smaller market where you get to be a little more creative. It's funny because I was just talking to a reporter about this. He asked me, he was saying in Miami, he has become a much better reporter in a year's time because of how much work we put out in a year. His writing as a reporter has gotten phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, is it the same way for photographers? And I said, yes, on some levels you get better quickly as far as the basics of the job, doing live shots, just, hooking stuff up, getting lights up, making it look good. Yes. Your creativity, in my opinion, goes way down because I'll look at stations when I'm in like the West Palm market, mm-hmm. and I'll look at their stuff on air and I'm like, it blows the stuff. I mean, I could do it, but it would take me time at this point because you do lose a lot of that creativity.
And we worked together when you first became a photog. So let's not talk about that yet. Let's talk about what were you doing when you first got into TV news? You were an editor at a West Palm Beach station, correct? Yeah,
I was an editor. I got lucky. I went to school in Orlando for film production, and I came back for the summer. I got an intern with the local station in West Palm as an editor. I was interning for free just to get my feet wet for, I think it was 3 months on the midnight shift. So I was lucky they hired me as an editor. That lasted for about almost 8 years. Mm-hmm. Got out of the business to try something else for about a year. And long story short, decided I wanted to get back into it. That's what I really enjoyed.
And that's when we met, right? Because then
that's when we
working...
met. Yeah.
So now you were an editor at the station we met at for what, like a year or two, and then they bumped you into the photog position?
Yeah, because I knew, the whole reason I got out originally for about a year was, look, editing is it's not great money. You can make kind of a living. Sure. Not a great one. And so I knew if I was going to get back into the business, I was going to have to learn to shoot. Mm-hmm. I love editing. I've been doing this, since 1999, 2000, so almost 18 years.
But it's also a great way to get into becoming a photog because let's face it, if you're running around shooting, you're usually 99.9% of the time going to be editing your own videos. So if you've already got one of those skills down, then it's just adding another skill on top of it and then using both.
I highly recommend starting from the ground up. It's a totem pole effect. And going from, look, when I became a photographer, I didn't know, and you know this because you taught me pretty much everything in the beginning.
Whoa. Is that why you have such bad habits?
I don't ever deny that.
Thank you.
I would never deny that. But, I didn't know a lot about or very little about shooting. But what helped me is 8 years of editing because I would say, this might be a stretch, but I would say 60% of the job is how fast you can edit. If you can edit a package in 10, 15 minutes, which, usually have more time, but there are times where you got to hammer it out in 10, 15 minutes. If you can do that, if you're comfortable with editing and you're quick, the rest will just come in time.
The days that the computer crashes and you go, not a big deal. I can edit just a little bit faster. Some of those bells and whistles maybe I'll take out, but I will still get an edited package done, back to the station in time so it can air with no issues. And I'm sure that helps with editing quick too. You just, what you can get done in a certain amount of time. Are we going to get real fancy or are we just going to meat and potatoes, get it done?
You brought up, issues with, say, the software or editing. It's funny because I always forget to mention, I was just training a guy. We have a new guy and I was training him last week. And I had told him, I said, another big part of the job is troubleshooting. And I think that's something people forget to tell others in the business when they're starting out. Yeah. And that's really that's going to come with it's breaking and you not knowing how to fix it, but you're going to learn that day.
Right.
And that's, I mean, I have gotten to the point where I've been in the business long enough now where, other than a live truck, so I haven't driven a live truck in a couple of years,
Right.
But everything else, there's not too much that can happen that'll leave me helpless. Like, you will learn over the years how to, you almost become an engineer, because you really do learn how to troubleshoot and fix,
basic stuff. Yeah.
Basic stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of these stations will give you a laptop, so it's your laptop. You learn things like, if you clean your equipment out, I clean it out every week. Every Sunday, my Sunday night, either Sunday night or my Monday morning, I wipe out all my footage. Anything you want to keep, you put it on wherever. I'll have other photogs say to me, have you been having your computer crash a lot? And I don't. I don't know if I'm lucky, but I think part of it's luck, but I think part of it is also,
you have to work later today. Don't jinx it. Don't go too much
I'm
down
sure
this road.
today's going to be a complete and total nightmare now. But no, it's very important. Those video files, I don't think a lot of people don't realize that when editing software takes up a lot of space.
Not the software, the clips that you're putting into it.
Right. It eats up a lot. And look, I'm not a computer whiz, and maybe you will correct me, but I feel like when you are starting to overload that computer with a lot of file footage throughout, I have guys that have a month's worth of video. A lot of it's just VOSOPs, but it builds up, and they can't figure out why their computer's crashing. And I'm like,
you're out of space.
You don't need it.
Yeah. Let's get back to shooting. You so graciously said that I taught you everything you know. And come on, give me a break. You remember one of the first stories that we did together was, I was doing features at the time. So, of course, the Girl Scouts got cookies, and local ice cream shop is making Girl Scout ice cream. Hell yeah. It's time to have some Girl Scout ice cream. And, a lot of the older guys, I know, give me a big camera, want buttons on it. But, man, they gave you, one of those smaller, almost MMJ type cameras to start out with. And it was great to shoot that piece because, man, you could stick that camera in the freezer, in the back of the truck, right on top of, you could maneuver that camera, put it in so many different places. And it was such a creative piece. And the gnats and the sounds. And you know what? And this could just be just me. But I find that a lot of photographers forget, hey, by the way, you have a microphone. There's sound. It's not just all the pretty pictures.
You taught me that too. Because I didn't. When
a lot of people don't think about it. They just go, okay, the mic's on and it'll capture whatever. But no, man, get it close.
Your audio is just as important as your video, and that took me a long time to learn. But I remember you told me that.
Yeah, it makes that video pop when you have nice colors and it looks good. But man, that sound is crisp. It just adds. It adds to that video.
You could tell people that are just starting out, because this was from my experience. I think you're shy with the camera in the beginning, so you would tend to stand away from, say, in this example, a moving machine part that's making ice cream, and you're kind of shy, so you're standing far away and you're zooming in. Don't forget about zooming in. Pretend you can't even zoom in. Use your legs to zoom in. Get right on top of it and get that audio, because it just goes back to, it's 50% of it is good audio, and so many people forget that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And it was such a fun story to work with you with, because I'm not going to say, but there's some guys that get a little grizzled after a while, and it's just get it done, let's get out of here. So hopefully you haven't lost any of that excitement.
I still have those days where you'll be on stories after all these years and you have time to be creative, and I really get right back into it. It's funny, I didn't think about it until you brought it up, but there's still days where I wish I had more time to make it perfect. I don't think you ever lose that. Even no matter how burned out you get, you will get a couple of stories where you're like, you know what, you find yourself losing track of time because you're perfecting it.
Reporters, what would you say to them? What's some advice you could give to, let's say, a young reporter who might have the chance to work with a photographer?
Photogs really do. They really are reporters that just not seen, because there are going to be many times in a big city like Miami where many times I'm on my own, and you're getting everything the reporter would get. You're not going to be treated differently in a market like this. They're going to send you out to politicians. You're going to need to, when you get there, if you're not familiar with who you're interviewing, you're going to need to get in on your phone. You're going to want to read up on the person you're interviewing. And so going back to the reporters, understand that when they say photojournalists, we really are journalists. As you get older and you get better and you get quicker, your reporters get younger and younger. And they get less, and you're getting people that are less experienced than you. So the good news is you get quicker, you know what to get, but you are going to have those days where you have reporters that are, just because they're less experienced, they're going to spin their wheels. They're going to, and as a photog, you just have to be patient. You can.
Wait, so you can't yell and scream and say no and walk away?
You shouldn't. I'm not saying I haven't, but you shouldn't. Reporters that will want to do something a certain way, and you've done it 100 times knowing the easiest way to do it, and you either just have to roll with it, let them figure it out, or you can, explain to them, let's try it this way. I've done this 100 times. You just have to feel out the reporter. And I remember with you, you always got stuck with.
Oh, okay. I thought.
No. This is good for you. This isn't a bad story. No. It's funny because now that I've been in the business a lot longer now, I look back in hindsight. You were stuck with guys like me who had no experience, and I remember, because you are a jack of all trades. You can write, you can report, you can do the camera, you can shoot, you can edit. But because of that, you always got, I won't say stuck with, but you were always the ones that the station would say, hey, you're going to be with Gary, because they knew that you were going to show them the ropes. But
if something happened, if we were running short on time, hey, you do this, I'll do that.
I have young college kids that'll see you out in the field with the camera, and they're like, hey, I'm going to school for communications and I want to become a photog. And I always tell them, I'm like, just know what you're getting into. Like, meaning, I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's TV, it's super glamorous all the time. So right away I tell them, look, being a photographer, it's a trade. It's a great trade. I mean, like electrician, plumber, it's a trade. And I shouldn't say it'll always be there, but in some form, I think it will be just like any other trade. You got to remember, I tell them, you're out in the elements every day. And if you're in South Florida, I mean, summertime, it's hot, it's wet. But if you really are doing it,
you just did Hurricane Irma, didn't you? A year ago?
Yeah, we had Hurricane Irma last year. That's, for me personally, that's one of the worst parts of my job is dealing. Some people love it, and when I was younger,
I loved it. I loved Hurricane.
Yeah, well,
coverage.
You don't have the camera that you're not.
Okay, wait a second. Wait. I helped carry I would pull cable. Come on now.
Right, but the only thing you really have to worry about in a hurricane is just not getting your hair wet. I got to worry about not getting the electronics wet, so it's a little different. But no. So yeah, I mean, remember, you got to deal with hurricanes. But so my point is, if you're doing it because you love to tell stories. Of course, you're going to love it. It's a lot of fun. Look, I've been doing it a very long time now. I forget how long. And, there are days when I do think, maybe I'd like to have a little slower paced job, maybe look into something else. But it always comes back to the same thought process. That is, I can't imagine doing anything else anymore. Being a photographer in this business, it's very fulfilling. Well, not always easy, but fulfilling.
You must be, because you're the guy that's always asking for doubles. All right.
Yeah.
Jeff, thanks for taking the time to talk. I hear you have to run to work now, right?
I have to run to work now. This is an easy day for me. This is only a 9-hour day, so it's a short day for me.
But the overtime is good, man. The overtime is good.
We live off, it's our bread and butter is overtime in this business. So never complain when they ask you to work a day off or a double shift, because you'll love it on your paychecks.